Okay, that last section went a little bit longer than I intended, and so this section should be shorter because I want to just touch on three things that I didn't expand on very much. Last time we talked about the marginal cost formula, the fingerprint of the firm, the review of profit maximization, and moving our demand and tweaking our output in order to maximize our profit. And then we talked about the demand curve for the firm, the supply curve for the firm. I really should say that we talked about the supply, but we didn't talk about the demand. That's where we're going to go next. We touched on economic profit and loss versus accounting profit and loss. But the hardship of the free market and the profit rectangle are what I want to expand on right now. So I want to talk about, well, I did have that right. We want to talk about this guy right here next. The demand curve of the firm. Now, to go into that, we said in the last section that this marginal cost curve winds up being the supply curve for the firm. Remember, supply curves have a positive relationship between price and quantity. So we said this portion of the curve right here, from here on up, would be the long-run supply curve, because how long could we take profits? That's till the cows come home. Forever we can take profits. But down here, this would be the short-run portion of the supply curve. And of course, the supply curve is going to end right here. It's not going to go down any further because we said this was the plant shutdown point. So the supply curve goes from here. This would be the short run because we can't stay here forever because we're taking a loss. But up through here, we'd be able to continue to produce at a profit for a long time. So this would be the supply curve for the firm. Now, the new part is that we said this is the price level. We also said that's the same thing as marginal revenue. And I want to point out now that that's the same thing as the demand curve for the firm. That this price level is the same thing as the marginal revenue, which is the same thing as the demand curve for the firm. And now some of you are going to go, aha! Oh, well, we learned before that market equilibrium happens where the supply curve and the demand curve intersect, and that's where people do business. Kind of drawing it all together here. So let's hold that thought for a second. Let's go back to something that we talked about earlier, and that's called elasticity of demand, or price elasticity of demand. Back in that chapter, we were saying that the more vertical the demand curve, the more inelastic the demand. But as we shift that curve and we make it flatter and flatter and flatter, it becomes more elastic. We said that elasticity was a measure of how sensitive consumers were to a change in price. And as this curve becomes flatter and flatter, consumers become very, very sensitive to the slightest little bit of price change. They change their buying behavior dramatically. So if we look at this, and this curve becomes closer and closer to being infinitely elastic, and we look at this flat curve here, we go, wow, that demand curve is as elastic as it possibly can be. What does that mean? This would be a condition of perfect competition. Under perfect competition, everybody makes exactly the same product. They have exactly the same cost of bringing it to the market. It's all marketed exactly the same thing. There's no difference in the mind of the consumer between the one product that you make and the product that everybody else makes. That's the condition of perfect competition. And this is a flat line demand curve because we have all these competitors out there. We have all these options for people. When people have more options, the demand becomes more elastic. So in this market, it is so huge that no one consumer can affect the market equilibrium. And the market is so big that there are so many producers that there's no one producer that can affect supply. If a couple 10 producers jump into the market, it doesn't really change supply very much. If they fall out of the market, it doesn't change supply very much. If a couple more 10% people jump into the market, they want to buy some of that, it doesn't change. There are just so many consumers and so many producers that no one individual or group of individuals can really affect the market that much. So what does this flat demand curve mean? It means that at that price, we can sell as many as we want to produce. There's no end to the market. And then the question is, well, how many do we want to produce at that price? And that takes us back to our profit maximization rule. We only want to produce this much. Even though the market will keep on taking more and more, let somebody else take the rest of that product. And it also says that if we raise our price 1 nickel, how much are we going to sell? Nothing. Because everybody else is selling at this price, and so if we try to raise the price the slightest little bit, we're not going to sell anything. Under perfect competition, we are a price taker. We have to take whatever price the market determines because there's so many buyers and there's so many sellers that no one buyer seller can affect the price. So we can't raise our price 1 nickel, 1 dime, 1 cent, and if they did, people would go to our competitor because they could buy the same thing for 1 cent less than they're buying it from us. So we can't raise the price. Similarly, we'd be dumber than 2 rocks to lower our price because if we can sell as much as we can possibly produce at this price, why would we ever want to lower our price to produce the same amount? And that wouldn't make any sense either. So we have a perfectly elastic or infinitely elastic demand curve where we have a fairly inelastic supply curve in contrast to that. The hardship. So we got a demand curve for the firm, this dotted line here, and we got a supply curve for the firm, and that says the firm is going to operate at this output right here in accordance with our profit maximization rule. The hardship of the free market is a hardship for producers because as these people come into the market, it drives the price down. As competitors, and they come into the market because of an economic profit per unit. As it drives the price down, it takes the price all the way down till if it gets any lower, people begin to exit the market. They begin to exit the market at the point that they no longer have any more economic profit. The hardship of the free market is that it drives the price down to this guy's only making $100,000. If he makes any less, he's going to jump ship and go with some other operation. He's going to get out of this particular business because he's worth more to somebody else than running his own firm. As this price comes down, notice what's happening on our average total cost curve here. We said that this marginal cost curve goes to the very bottom of the average total cost curve. That means that at this output right here, this firm is as efficient as it can possibly be. If it makes any less than output, its average total cost goes up. If it makes any more than that, its average total cost goes up. It's only at this output that it's, for this size of firm, its total cost, its average total cost, is at its very minimum. And the moral of the story is, guess what the free market does? The free market tends to take away economic profit from firms until they are forced. They don't want to. Until they are forced to operate at their most efficient point of their average total cost curve. Now again, they don't want to. That's the hardship of the free market. The hardship of the free market is that the free market always looks out for the best interest of the consumer and always creates a hardship to all producers. So producers don't really like that. They're looking for some way that they can keep their economic profit, which is taking us into the next chapter on monopoly. But my point here is that the hardship of the free market is that it always looks out for the best interest of the consumer, which means it drives prices down until, if the prices get any lower, they're going to start exiting that particular firm. Now let's take this point and do this profit rectangle issue one more time. Let's put a number here. Let's put a number like $1,000. Okay, that is the price of this particular product. If we rise it up to, if we try to charge 1,001 for our dollars for our good, nobody's going to buy anything because we're off of our demand curve. And we'd be dumber than two rocks to take our price down to $999 because we can sell all we want. As much as we want to produce, we can sell it for $1,000. So we would want to be operating at this quantity right here. Let's say that that is, nice round number, 200 units per year. Now, at this output, this is our price level. What is our average total cost per unit? Well, we take all of our costs, we add them all up and put a big lump sum, and we divide it by our quantity, and we get average total cost. Now notice, we are not, at this high price, we're not operating as efficiently as we possibly could. And the reason is, who cares if we're operating as efficiently as we could? Because we want to maximize our profits. We're interested in maximizing our profits, not in being as efficient as we possibly can. So now we say, okay, the price is $1,000. On the average, if we take all of our costs, we add them all up together, we divide by the quantity, how much does it cost us to make these 200 units? Well, that number, we'll just say, is 800. So what is our profit margin per unit? Well, it would be the difference between 1,000 and 800. So this dimension right here would be $200 right here. So on the average, we're making $200 per unit times 200, and our profit rectangle, this right here, would be 200 times 200, and if we multiply that, I'm going to get 4 with 1, 2, 3, 4 zeros. We'd be making, the company would have been making $40,000 because it's just this dimension times this dimension, and that would be our profit rectangle for the firm. Now, we said it could go worse than that, and so competitors come in and they drive the price down, and they drive the price down, and they continue to drive the price down because that is the hardship of the free market. And it not only drives the price down, but it also favors those firms that have the lowest possible set of cost structures. So if there's some firm that has a lower cost structure than our firm because they're operating more efficiently, they might be able to make a profit at a low cost where we're taking a loss. And so the market's going to drive us out because we're inefficient, and it's going to tend to give the profit and all the gravy to this firm out there that's more efficient than us. So let's say it brings the price down and brings the price down until we're here at this price right, I'll pick one here, this price right here. Okay, now I got to pick another number. I'll pick 600. Okay, that price right there. So what it says is, our profit maximization rule says, well, we're going to follow this all the way down here. As the price goes down, we're just going to follow this curve down here, which means we're going to operate with this quantity right there, QX. But at this quantity, our marginal cost, the cost of making the very next one, is $600. But our average total cost is right here. Let's call that $700. So at this output, our average total cost is $700, but the price, our price level, has been driven all the way down to $600. Therefore, we're taking a $100 loss. Let's put a number on this one down here. Let's say we're making 10,000 of these units. We're making 10,000 units right here at a price of $600, and we're taking a loss because the price at this output is below our average total cost. So we're going to take 100. We're saying, what is this loss triangle in here? It's going to be this number, which is 100, times this number, which is the quantity. So it's going to be the $100 times the $10,000 And so we're going to add 2 more zeros to that. If I did my zeros correctly, we would have a loss of $100,000. And that would be this dimension times that dimension. So there. I think we've covered everything on the board that I wanted to cover. And hopefully we've done that in less than 15 minutes or so, I hope. And I hope that you'll be able to compute, if we give you a graph like this, either the profit rectangle or the loss rectangle on your test. And good luck to all of you. Thank you.